Now we're going through another rock tunnel once again. You look here, you won't see any coal because the coal is above us. The coal is over the top of us. We're going underneath the coal, back into solid rock once again. This is called sandstone rock, and it's the second strongest rock that holds up coal mines. The first one is conglomerate, and that almost looks like granite, but this is sandstone, and this is a very good solid rock as well. Now we're walking on wooden plank and wooden walkways, and it's all lit up down here. You have to keep in mind that a regular coal mine wasn't lit up like this. The only light that was here was what you had on your head. It was a pegboard. If you look over there, everyone who worked in this section, name was on the pegboard, and they had a peg after their name. When they came down in the morning, they would check in or peg in, go over here and talk to the section foreman, get their orders, and go directly into their places and begin their day's work. Now at the end of the shift, they came back here once again, gave their report, told them on what they did for the day. Then they would take their peg from the in hole to the out hole and check out. Now the mine foreman in here, or the section foreman, his job was to come down very early in the morning before anybody was here, and he would make a pre-shift exam. Kind of like the same thing that I do every day. We make a pre-shift exam, or my foreman that work with me will make a pre-shift examination and inspect the mine and make sure that it's safe before we open for the day's operation. Well, they did the same thing in an active coal mine. Before the men came down, they went through the chambers and make sure that it was safe. There was no bad air, any props knocked out, or any kind of dangerous conditions which might await for those men. Once the men came down, they got the orders from the mine foreman. He might say, oh, there's a prop knocked out up in your place. Make sure you put that prop up before you start working so nothing happens. Or I hit a little gas up in the face. I want you to make sure you clear that out before you begin to work. So unsafe conditions like that were usually found. They would tell the men right away, and it would help them to work safer. So that was a very important job, being called a fire boss. Now the name fire boss came from a boss that would put out fires. Many times when they would blast in a gassy coal mine, the coal would catch on fire from the dynamite blast. So quickly they would have to get some powder, tie it up with some string, throw it in there, and the concussion would actually blow the fire out. And that's what the fire boss's job was, to blow out the fire before it caught the coal on fire. So it was a very important, responsible job. Now, if you take a look up in here, just pull up and shoot up in there.
Okay.
I talked a little bit about the low coal veins, and this is one of them right here. Now they had names for these veins. They called them low coal or monkey veins. If you worked in a monkey vein, it's pretty obvious you worked on all fours, hands and knees. First thing you did in the morning when you came in, put your knee pads on. Then you go up, drill and blast, load the coal into this machine called a shaker chute. The coal would shake back and forth, slide down, dump into the car parked underneath. Now you might think it's pretty low up there, only about 30 inches high. What would you think of a vein of coal 12 to 16 inches high? They worked in those also. They worked on their elbows, their sides, and their stomachs. Now you can see why the old timers were so badly crippled up with arthritis. Working in the damp, cold conditions certainly took its toll on their systems, didn't it? Arthritis, rheumatism, sore back, sore knees, you name it, it was all right here. Now believe it or not, some men actually chose to work in these lower veins. They felt that it was safer. Nothing could fall from a great height and strike and work and hit them. So they would work their entire careers in the low coal veins. Other men chose to work in the higher veins, but at any rate, both were paid the same, high coal and low coal. Doesn't seem quite fair, does it? I don't think the word fair was invented when coal was being mined. It was a matter of working and surviving and trying to put food on your table, and you did what you did because you had to do it. It was as simple as that. And if you lost your job, you probably wouldn't be able to get a job anywhere else, so you made sure that you hung on to that job was the only way to provide for your family. No kind of welfare or unemployment compensation or anything like that we have today. I want you just to follow me in here next. We have another example of child labor. This little boy was called a nipper, a door boy, or a door tender. His job was to open and close the doors. Now the purpose of these doors was to control the ventilation. The noise you hear running is our fan ventilating the mine and keeping plenty of fresh air down here so that we can work and come on the tour safely. The doors were to control this ventilation. Now, the cars had to come through here. So when the cars came through, they would quickly open the door, quickly close it afterwards. Now, if the door was left open, the mine where the men were working in there, the chamber we just came from, they would not get the proper air. The dust and the smoke would stay up there, and it would be very hazardous to their health. So these doors had to always be closed. The only time they could open them is when the trip of cars came through. The boy would sit here and listen for many long hours, sometimes, for the rumbling of the wheels. When he heard that, he would quickly jump up and open the doors, close them afterwards. Now, if the doors were not open, say he was daydreaming or fell asleep here, the trip of cars would never stop. It would crash through these doors and break them down. Sometimes injuring the boy, even killing him at the last minute. When he heard the doors, he would try to open them quickly, and it was too late. He was in the way. Sometimes he became a victim as well. 8 to 10 years of age, 12 hours a day, sometimes 7 days a week. Now the reason these boys were down here, not because they chose to be here or try to make some extra money, for most of them it was a full-time job. They were here because their father was injured or killed, and in a case like that, automatically the oldest boy was now the breadwinner. If this boy did not go out to work, the family could not survive. There was no compensation, welfare, anything like we have today. If you're injured or killed on a job, your father, they would simply bring him home on a horse and wagon, dump his body on the front porch, knock on your door and say, here's your dead son or your dead husband. Now just imagine to have to live through something like that. Hard times, very, very hard times and tough times. And it's a miracle that people survive to go through something like that. So we talk about, things today in our environment, but this was certainly a very hard time period to live in as well. Now I want you to watch that door. What happens when I open the door ahead of us here? You're going to feel the suction of the fan come through here when I open this door. Kind of like an airlock on a submarine. You go through one door, that closes, then you open another door. It allows you to come through without pulling on the door like a suction cup, say. So the two doors act as an airlock. Follow me in there.